All right, we now welcome on somebody we're very excited to have on today. She's a 2019 World Cup champion, and she played for quite a few teams in the NWSL. Currently on the North Carolina Courage, and she also played for UNC in college. It is Jessica McDonald. Thanks for coming on today, Jessica.
Thank you for having me, boys. I appreciate
So I know when I was doing some research on you, I saw you played a lot of sports in high school and college. You played three at the junior college before going to North Carolina. So what kind of made you decide you wanted to what made you decide soccer was your sport?
it. I grew up a multi-sport athlete, and I just love competing in general. And the reason why I chose soccer is because it was giving me more opportunity. I played a lot of years on youth national teams. I played in the Pan American Games by the time I was 18, 19 years old. And so soccer was just taking me all over the place. Whereas with track and basketball and other sports, they were just kind of keeping me within the Western region of the United States. I'm from Arizona, born and raised. And soccer was just taking me around the world, not just around the United States, but literally overseas. And so, that was kind of a easy decision for me to make just because of the opportunities that were coming my way with soccer.
Yeah. While you were playing soccer, like, did you ever try to play, or were you ever thinking about playing another sport, like to go professional in?
Yeah, I was kind of joking, but kind of serious. I was just talking to my uncle recently, because I'm at the age where people are starting to ask, "Hey, when's retirement?" I'm 32, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just kind of going with the flow at this point. But when I do retire, I might be trying out for the WNBA, just kind of see how it would go. I was kind of like joking, but I'm like, actually, that would be kind of dope. Very Marion Jones esque. She went and did her thing with track, and then came back and played in WNBA for a couple of years. So, it'd be kind of cool. I'm not gonna lie, just to try out, just to see how it would go. I probably wouldn't take it as serious.
Nah,
You know?
that'd be pretty dope, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I in high school you won a state championship in track. Um National championship when you're at North Carolina. You've had two NWSL championships and then also a World Cup championship. What's next for you to accomplish now? Like is it what what is left for you on your horizon?
Yeah, it's a crazy resume, a
Yeah.
crazy athletic resume that I'm just like very grateful for. And it's crazy to think about. I did an interview a few months ago, and someone pointed out to me, they're like, "You've literally won a championship at every level you've ever played. Like, what is that like?" I'm like, I don't know. I like go with the flow almost within my career because it's hard to set goals, and when you meet them it's kind of like, okay, what now? I never want that what now feeling because there's Olympics, and there's no other things post career that I can continue to accomplish. So Olympics would
Yeah.
absolutely be cherry on top at this point. And
Yeah.
so it's been a crazy adventure, and right now I am just going with the flow. But i do I do want to make the Olympic team and hopefully win the gold. And so I guess we'll see where we go with that.
Yeah.
My question is, do you actually hold on, Chuck? Do you have all like your medals and trophies like displayed somewhere like in your house?
Oh, that's wild you just asked. So I just like moved in here. I was telling you guys earlier that I was putting furniture together, and I finally just got some like kind of sticky hooks I can put on the wall and put my medals on. And I have like some trophies and other things kind of like in my kitchen on this very high cabinet set that's like in the kitchen. So it's like touching the ceiling almost, but you can like see some of my trophies up there. So, but my medals, they'll be hung up today, actually.
Nice. So what kind of do you attribute the championship attitude that you embody to? Is there somebody that had a lot of influence on you growing up, or is just kind of the way you were born?
It's kind of the way I was wired a little bit. That's actually a great word to use because I grew up at a different time than a lot of kids these days. People who are 10 years and 10 years younger than me and younger, we didn't have the technology the way that people have it now. These kids have it now. They're indoors a lot. And so we weren't. I grew up in the 90s. I was born in the 80s, grew up in the 90s. We were outside all the time. And I grew up the only girl in the family. So we were just these active kids all the time. I had one brother, and then the rest were all my boy cousins. And they would drag me along wherever we would go, whether it be the park, basketball court. We'd even take our skates, go roller skating. We play street hockey, you name it. Like, we did it all the time. Like, we're always outside and active. But for me, being the only girl, I almost grew up with this underdog mentality. I always had this chip on my shoulder. I'm the only girl. I always had to prove myself. I had to, earn a spot to get picked just to play with the boys. You know what I mean? That's all I wanted to do. And, I grew up like, I wasn't even allowed to cry. I wasn't even allowed to act like a girl. You hanging out with us, you better be us. Literally, I had no choice. But it was fun. We were active. It was fun. It was competition all the time. But I was always that underdog. And I kind of carried that mentality into my adult life to now. And so that pressure, I salivate for that. I absolutely love it. And that's exactly what I live for. And it's because of my childhood.
Yeah, growing up with that like attitude or childhood, I would say, like, did you have any role models or like players that kind of just shaped you into like the player or the person you are today?
My brother, for one thing, he played in MLS for a while. His name's McDonald. He was a center back and holding midfielder. And, he pushed me to the edge a little bit growing up, if you mean someone more hands-on. And then, of course, I had coaches who instilled that fire in me. I had mentors who instilled the more competitiveness in me, kind of pushing me to a point where I didn't even know I had different strengths than what I already knew I had. And so I think if you just jumble all that together, that's what helped me, with soccer today or my success today.
Yeah. So in your personal life, is there anything like kind of you're working on or want to work on in the future that you'll use that you'll have that translate that attitude towards in the future?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think with people who helped me obviously get to where I am today, I'm very grateful. We didn't grow up with much. When I started club soccer, I started when I was 12. Club soccer is a very expensive sport here in the United States. Y'all,
Mm-hmm.
you can be a millionaire. It's still very expensive. Like, I'm sorry, it's overly pricey. And I didn't know that as a kid. And my club and other parents from my club paid for me to play. They flew me out to tournaments. They put me up in hotels. They paid for my uniform. You name it. We didn't pay a penny. And my brother and our club paid for us. And so I want to help pay it forward. And so I just came up with a Jessica McDonald Foundation that will help inner city kids or kids who obviously want to play club soccer and can't afford it, and help them pay for that. Or if they need any type of merchandise, that's what my foundation is there for. And that's going to be one of my main focuses, is trying to help the youth who don't have the resources or opportunity the way that I did. I got lucky. My brother and I, we got very lucky, and we are blessed and like obviously grateful for where we are. But there are some very talented kids out there who can't seek opportunity just because they can't afford it. So
Mm-hmm.
that is very unacceptable. You lose opportunity because of money. That's sad. And so I want to help change that.
Yeah.
With your foundation, like, what would you say you've learned since you've started it?
Whew, how many kids are in desperate need? Wow, I'm like, okay. So I dabbled in a little bit of funds, kind of from my own pocket, and, just tried to start off with it, and it kind of blew up a little bit. And it was only in Phoenix for a little while. And so eventually I wanted to be nationwide. And so I'm kind of still learning how to help more kids. I guess that's the most difficult part about the process so far. So we'll see.
Yeah, that's awesome that you're doing that, because it's kind of unfortunate the way the system is set up, the youth soccer system, where it's pay to play on the best teams, to travel to the best tournaments. So it's
Yeah.
great that you're helping to solve that. Do you have like a Instagram, or like how can our listeners reach out and help out?
Yeah, I'm actually getting a website built, like literally as we speak. So people are able to donate that way to make it kind of easier. Because it was more of like a mail-in check, very old school. So
Yeah.
I didn't know what to expect. This is a learning process for me. So eventually, like pretty soon here, I will be putting my website up, and I'll announce it as well. So the public will know.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll definitely have to share that with our listeners and followers on Instagram and whatnot.
Thank you.
So in your club career, you've moved around from a lot of teams, and you even played in Australia for a little bit. What's the hardest part about moving to a new team?
The hardest part for me, there's only 1 year where I was a pro and not a mom. 1 year out of my entire career, and I've been a pro almost 10 years now. And so my son's been with me the whole step of the way. And the hardest part about being traded, from state to state is finding a whole new support system. We're getting paid pennies at the time. Like, we still are. We're getting paid trash. And it was hard to afford daycare. And then I'm moving to a whole nother state again, having to find a whole new support system, a whole new babysitter, someone else I can trust with my kid, getting and trying to pay them the least amount of money I possibly could, because I didn't have much. I was making 13 to 15 grand my first few years as a pro. And so, like, trying to raise a kid on that salary was hard. So it was the finances and support system, being traded from team to team. And there was like a point in time where I played for the most teams in the entire league, and here I am, one of like 3 moms in the league at the time, which was sad to say, but it was mentally draining. And that was like the hardest part, is just finding someone else that I can trust to help me with my kid, because I'm trucking along on my own with him, and it just made it very difficult for me, just mentally and physically. My job is very physically demanding, and I come home and I have to take care of my kid all day, but the mental part of my job needs to be very, very sharp, and it wasn't for a lot of times, because I was very stressed out about trying to support my kid, and it was just a horrible worry. And so I'm just very grateful that I actually did go through that. Yes, but I'm happy I went through it, because I can help guide future moms, in the right direction, kind of what to expect. If they need help, they can reach out to me. I kind of want to be that mentor amongst, pro athlete moms who need that sort of help, because it's hard as like female athletes that are moms. Our jobs are way different than our teammates who are not parents. And so that was like probably the worst part about my career, and being traded so many times.
Yeah. Like you said, it's like your job is physically draining, and then after that you have to deal with all like the mentally draining aspects of it too. For you, what do you do to get away from everything, like to get a mental break, get a physical break, or what is that for you?
Yeah, believe it or not, I've always used sport as a coping mechanism. I really have. So my job does kind of ease that stress. Yeah, it's physically demanding, but it helps with stress as well, for the most part. And I grew up in a pretty hostile environment. I witnessed a lot of things I probably shouldn't have when I was a kid. And, I never wanted to be at home. I lived in a very strict household, and the only way I was allowed to kind of leave the house was to go play sport. And so, I took advantage of being an athlete. I was quarterback on a football team 1 year, you guys, because I wanted to be out of the house. And so I used that, what was going on at home, and I was able to go to training, go to recess, or whatever case may be, anything active. I've been able to use that as a coping mechanism. And so even though it sucked having to find a new sitter, in new states, yeah, that part was very stressful. But then I was in my element at soccer practice. That's just like the best place for me, is my job. And so I love it that much, because it does help me relieve stress. And obviously, like, you guys know, like as athletes or even as an active person, you go to the gym, relieve stress, workout. So it's the same thing for me. I'm stressed out outside of soccer. In soccer, I'm like, let's go. I need to release all of this. So
Yeah. Do you have like any advice that you would give to uh athlete moms or just moms in general about like the whole like stress issue with like kids and then you have a full-time job playing soccer and all that?
yeah, man, it's it's hard. It's hard. But if you're passionate about both, if you're passionate about being a mom, you're passionate about what you do for a living, you're able to, use both as motivation and influence for both. I want to be a great soccer player because of my kid. I want to be a great mom because of, soccer and being able to help provide for my kid. So it's like a balance. It's hard to balance the two because, life in general is just very stressful. It's just kind of how you deal with it is what's going to obviously define your character. But I'm just happy that I have a job that I'm able to, cope with. And my kid is a very easygoing kid, but it's all about finding balance and having a routine. Routine is like key for me. So one amazing thing that not a lot of people have within their career is a full year schedule. So I know my schedule for the whole year. Sometimes days are, it might rain outside, training might or training might move to like a different facility, little things like that, but that's like rare. But other than that, I have my schedule for the whole year. So I'm able to put my kid on a consistent routine. And I think that's probably one of the most important things is it's routine for you and your child. So
Yeah, that's definitely key. Having a routine is definitely key for me as well.
As an adult, yes.
Yeah. So on the teams you've played for, I know you're score a lot of goals. You're a goal scorer. Do you have a reputation on teams for being like anything else other than that, or like what would you say you're known for?
Oh, I hope not. I do like to.
No, not in a bad way. Not in a bad way.
No, I'm kidding. I know.
Yeah.
I lead by example. That's kind of my thing. I'm not a very vocal person. You guys see me on the field. You guys, I am mute. I don't say anything on the field, and I'm not that kind of leader. I'm not that vocal leader. That's usually our defenders who are, but and our goalkeeper as well. So I kind of leave that to them. But yeah, I'm like a very silent leader. I just like to lead by example. The work I put in at training and then being able to apply it into games. And that's sort of the example I want to set for, especially the rookies that come into our team's environment each year.
I'm curious, like on the field, did you feel like that kind of held you back at all, that you weren't talking as much, or just the fact that you were going to go out there and be the person everybody kind of looked for, like you're going to work as hard as you could,
Yeah. So I communicate with my hands. I don't communicate out loud. So if I have a teammate who's looking for a pass, I'll point where I want the ball and she can see that. And that's how I'm able to connect with my teammates, or, point up if I want it long, so I give hand signals in games. So that's how, I guess lead.
Yeah.
That's what I do get away with is, I don't want defenders knowing where I'm going, so
Yeah.
I'll point one way, I'll be running this way, but I'll point this way for feet and, kind of cut quickly to obviously go to the ball where I ask my teammate to pass the ball. So I use hand signals as communication.
Do all your teammates like speak English, I'm guessing then? Or do some of them know? I mean, some of them don't. So you just kind of just point.
No, they all speak English.
Okay.
We did have Dabinia a few years ago. She's from Brazil. She spoke no English, but now her English is very good. But I still point anyway. So
nice. So, like when you said you were part of the U.S. national team since you're U16, like the youth team you're on it from U16 all the way up to U23, and then you didn't make your senior team debut until 2016. So there's like you've been involved in the team for a while, but it kind of was a long process to get to the top. What kept you motivated throughout this long process and just to stay mentally and physically sharp?
Yeah, man. So there was a point in time where I was ready to hang up my boots. I really was. I told you guys what I was getting paid. I told you struggles that I had, going from state to state for a while. And obviously, I wanted to make the US national team. I'm pushing 26, 27, 28 years old at that time, and I'm like, okay, tap tap, clearly this is not going to happen, because when you're in with a full team, your first appearance with a full team, you're either a teenager or you're in your early 20s. And here I am, my late 20s at this point. And so um, I had to have a very deep discussion with an uncle of mine. I was then working full time at Amazon, 11 and a half hours a day, packing boxes just to make ends meet. So yeah, I'm working full time job and trying to juggle parenthood and being a professional athlete. And man, I was drained in every kind of way. I did everything I possibly could within my career by that point. And, I led most of my teams and goals up until that point, and then um, my partner in crime, Lynn Williams, she was able to like come in and we just meshed very well together up top. But I had this very deep discussion with my uncle in 2015 off season. I was like, man, I'm done. I did everything I could. I'm content with my career. I will accept it. I'm ready to just like move on from the sport. I don't even know if this is worth it anymore. And he was like, shut up, first and foremost. He's like, absolutely not. He was like, you're just gonna give up because it's hard. Because it's hard. He's trying to tell me like, look, life is hard. You have this opportunity that the rest of our family had, and you were able to take your ticket. He's like, you need to continue playing for as long as possible, or else you're going to regret it. If you can physically still go, you need to physically still play. He's like, you cannot give up that easily because it's hard, and I'm like kind of like eye roll. When your parents are talking to you when you're a kid and you're just like, you're listening, but you like don't want to listen. That is kind of like that. And I was just like, fine, kind of through gritted teeth. And, in my mind, I'm like, yeah, he's right, but I don't want to tell him he's right. And so 2016, I became a pro champion. And this is after that talk. This was like off season of 2015 in like the winter time. And then 2016 came, I got traded again and to Buffalo, New York, and we ended up winning the championship and got my first call in with the national team. Very, very surprising, 100%. And I was like, kind of like look back at that conversation, like, he was 100% right. And so
you're right. You're like, imagine if I would have given up right then and there.
Oh, man, I don't even know where I would be right now in this world. No idea.
How was like your like what was your reaction when you first got that call from, I'm guessing, Jill? Does Jill call you, or is there like another person that does the calling up for camp or whatever?
Jill called, and like I was heading to work, you guys, not soccer practice, but work. I was working at a soccer shop during that time, and I'm literally putting my shoes on, my phone's ringing. Obviously, it's an unknown number. I'm like, who is this? Answer. And I'm like, hello. And she's just like, hey, Jess, this is Jill Ellis. And I was like, who is this? What? And yeah. So yeah, she called, and I was ecstatic, obviously, because I've been waiting. At that time, I was 28 years old. I've been waiting 28 years just for that phone call. So all the blood, sweat, and tears, you guys.
Since then, how would you say your relationship is with Jill, or was with Jill?
You know what? She was actually my youth national team coach. I've always known her. I've known her for a while. But she hadn't always been the head coach. She was only head coach for so many years. But I mean, she was great, good human being off the, learned a lot from her on the field. So I thought it was pretty solid.
Did you hear? I don't know. I heard, because I know DC United just got, they released Greg Olson. So, and I heard she might be the number one choice right now. Like, what do you think about that?
For DC United?
Yeah.
Like head coach?
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be so sick. Are you kidding me? A female head coach in the MLS? Talk about historical moment. That'd be amazing. I wonder how that would go for men. Like, I'd be ecstatic if that were to happen. But
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she's like the number one. Like, I'm like 85% sure it's gonna happen within.
I didn't know that. I had no idea. That'd be amazing.
So when you were playing the World Cup in France, what was it like when you found out you made the roster? What was your reaction when you found out you made the roster? You're gonna go over there.
Y'all, I cried. I wept like a baby, I was in every camp from November 2018 up until I think it was May or April. It was mid-April when we're supposed to find out, if we made the World Cup team. And there was 28 of us getting a phone call who's been in camp that whole time, been in camps the whole time leading into the World Cup. And only 23 of us were making it. So there's 5 of us getting cut. I'm not allocated, nor am I on contract with the national team. Underdog mentality, chip on my shoulder, and I'm the only mom too on this team at that time. Now Alex Morgan's mom, obviously, as you guys probably know, but I'm the only mom and I'm not contracted. I haven't been on the team really. I wasn't like a primary player, but my underdog mentality carried over into those camps and then carried over into that phone call. So Jill told us that she was calling us within this 4-day expansion. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So it was like a yes or a no for all 28 of us. And so 3rd day, y'all, it was the longest 72 hours of my entire life. I mean, like phone sitting right next to me. Like I'm making sure my Apple Watch is, on loud, cranking that volume up. And I'm like, just looking down at my phone. I don't think I've ever been near my phone that much as I was those days waiting for that phone call. So got the call and she calls. I see her name on the phone. Go ahead. Sorry, that was my kid. Got the phone call and man, her name popped up. Oh, I'm sweating right now, you guys, talking about this. I see her name on my phone. Jill, it's just bright up. I'm like, oh my gosh. Like deep breath. I'm letting it ring. I'm like, okay. I'm like, hello. She's like, hey, Justin. Hey, Jill. How are you? Good. How are you? Good. I'm like, tap, woman. She's like, would you like to hear your answer? I'm like, of course. Like, and it's like a dead silence for like probably about 2 seconds, but it was like the longest 2 seconds before she told me. And she's like, you're going to the World Cup. And then immediately you guys just tears just pouring down my face, just through the ups, the downs, the talk with my uncle, the full-time jobs, trying to figure things out with my kid. It's just like everything just rushed at me in that moment because it was like all that I went through was literally for this moment, all 31 years of my life. I've been waiting for this, and it was just such a relief. It was relieving more than anything. Obviously I was very happy. I was ecstatic, but it was relieving. And I was like, thank God, I'm like, all right, now helmet on for impact. It's go time now, went through camps, went through the hard part. Now it's like, okay, now we're actually prepping. Now we can focus on team because leading into that phone call, you're worried about yourself. You ain't worried about nobody else because you're trying to make it. So you give it your all. And so now it's like, I only worried about myself. Okay, now I'm worried about the team. Now we got to get on the same page. How are we going to be successful for the World Cup, et cetera, et cetera. But it was one of the most amazing moments of my life, that phone call. Probably the best phone call I've ever been on in my entire life. Literally.
Out of the games, out of all the games you played in that tournament, what would you say your highlight was? Or what was the highlight of your the whole tournament?
Oh, y'all. Okay, I played 45 minutes in the whole tournament. 45 minutes. I got a half, and I was like, thank you, Lord, for that half. Like, to be honest, like I have Kristen Press, Tobin Heath, Alex Morgan, Carly Lloyd, Megan Rapinoe. I have all these names in front of me. We're all strikers, and so to be honest, I wasn't even expecting to play at all in the tournament. I was just happy to be there and be the best teammate I possibly could be. So Jill threw me in at halftime against Chile, our third game, and man, y'all, I hit the post. I hit like this shot. I work on this shot all the time. So, as an athlete, you really like perfect your strengths. Like you work on your weaknesses, but you perfect your strength. You work on your strengths. And, a bending ball from the corner of the 18 with my right foot, bending far post, that's like, it's a strength of mine. Beat the goalkeeper. And then like, you just hear the ping. And I was like, oh, like that was my moment. That was all I get. Like,
Yeah.
why? You ever seen Billy Madison? He's like, just go to your home. Or no, Happy Gilmore. He's like, go to your home.
Go to your home.
Yeah, just go to your home. That's your home. And I felt that in that moment. But that was like the highlight for me as an individual, in the whole tournament. I was like, I'll take the post. At least I hit the post and didn't miss the frame. So, but yeah, that was a highlight for me at least.
So when the final whistle blew against the Netherlands in the final, what was that experience like? Just knowing like you got like everything you had worked for, like even it's just everything was there,
Yeah, I'm gonna go back to the same word, man. It was a relief.
Yeah.
Because like people don't know the grind that we had to put in just going into the World Cup. Like people don't know, y'all we were in boot camp leading into the World Cup. We peaked at the right time. We did everything we possibly could to prepare, and we knew as a team that we were going to win it. We knew just the 23 of us, and that's why we had this mantra like US against everybody versus everybody, you know what I mean? And so we carried that over into the tournament. So I thought that pressure that we had on or people put pressure on us leading into the World Cup. They were worried that we weren't going to win. And so we knew the grind that we had put in. And man, when that whistle blew, it was very relieving. I'm like, oh my gosh, the fitness, you name it, just leading into it. It was a relief, but it was such an incredible moment for the whole team. We set a goal for us, just the 23 of us, and we can leave out the coaching staff because there were things that coaching staff wasn't even a part of. It was just the 23 of us. We got on the same page as a unit and we conquered, we dominated, and we did that. And it was just such an amazing and beautiful moment with my teammates to run out onto the field, hug each other, and and celebrate.
What was the celebration like after you guys got back to the US? What was the celebration like?
Man, I can't give y'all detail, but let's say, y'all, it was lit. Are you kidding me? It was so lit. Like we even like start off with, so we landed in the US, we went straight to New York City. We got the key to New York City from the governor, and then we got on we were in the New York parade. Millions of people, like that was absolutely incredible. Then literally right after the parade, we get on the plane. We're getting our makeup and hair done on the plane on this charter flight from New York straight to LA. We go into our hotel rooms, literally change and go and walk across the street to the SBs. So like it was like one thing after another, after another, after another. And like my son's next to me. He's my +1 for everything. So like he was 7 years old at the time. So I know he's gonna remember this for the rest of his life. So I better be his +1 in the future for something. So but it was just amazing to even just be a part of it and witness how these things go about. Like the ESPYs, are you kidding me? Like I met Russell Wilson and Sierra. Like, that's dope. Billie Jean King, and a long list of people. But I was just very grateful to obviously not only do it with my teammates, but also do it with my son. So the celebration, like for the first 72 hours post World Cup final, was so lit. So just lit and just incredible experiences overall.
Yeah, no. If I were to somehow win a World Cup, you would have to resuscitate me like 4 times on the way back home. I'm talking like I would not be okay. Like you have to take my phone away, just handcuff me to like my seat because I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I was geeked.
Yeah, for sure. It must have been something else. So we've been asking this question to a lot of our guests recently, and we're kind of put you in a hypothetical situation. You're in like your training leading up to the World Cup, and you can pick. So your small-sided game, it's 6v6. So pick 5 other players that you would want to have on your team for that. So yourself plus 5 others.
And it's 6v6.
Yeah.
So including a goalkeeper.
A goalkeeper, yeah, and then whatever mix of players you want, yeah.
Okay. I would go with Abby Dahlkemper, Crystal Dunn, Sam Mewis, Lynn Williams, and I'm sweating again.
One more.
Listener.
Nice.
Yeah.
Kurt, we got. I think we got one more question, and then we can wrap it up. Kurt.
Okay, yeah, we do. Last question. Chuck wrote this one. I think he said, "Who are 3 up and coming women's soccer players that we should be? Well, that's gonna be on that we should be looking out for. Basically, that's part of like the new generation of the dominant national team."
Yeah. Oh, Sophia Smith. I think Addison Merrick is going to be absolutely incredible. And Katarina, I don't know her last name. She's from Stanford.
I don't know either.
I'll take away that last name. The last name I gave you. Take away Katarina, and I'll say Macy Bell. Macy Bell.
Are these all college players now? Or you don't know?
One of them is still in college, and the other 2 are rookies this year.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think like because you said Kyrie went to Stanford. I'm pretty sure Sophia went to Stanford as well. So Stanford.
Sophia went to Stanford.
Yeah, so Stanford produces a lot of talent.
Yeah.
All right, Jess, thanks a lot for coming on our show. We really enjoyed having you on.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, enjoyed hearing about your experiences just throughout, like just your journey and when it all paid off in the World Cup. So
yeah,
thanks
thank
again.
you so much.
You're welcome back anytime. Also in the future. So
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
All right. Bye, you guys.
Bye.
All right. Yeah.